another of my videos on why Jewish apologetics are so bad. This is a video by a Rabbi Feiner.
Many years ago, I was sitting in a graduate class at Johns Hopkins University, and I was listening to a summary of the Gospels of Mark, John, and Paul. Professor, one of the top professors in Johns Hopkins University, and one of the most brilliant professors that I've ever come across, was going through the various contradictions throughout all the different Gospels, and I just sat there, an innocent Jew, viewed myself as a bystander, just listening to the contradictions one after the next, and I just raised my hand. I had a nice relationship with this professor, and I said, "Excuse me, professor, but tell me, how can a person espouse the Christian faith without reconciling all these contradictions that are germane to the very tenets, the foundations of the faith?"
It's a good question, but kind of leads me to think that you believe Judaism doesn't have contradictions as well. Well, let's see where this goes.
And he said to me, "You know what, Rabbi Feiner," I was in rabbinical school at the time as well, and he says to me, "Rabbi Feiner, I have to be honest with you. You're right, but you know what? The majority of the world, they don't even read the Gospels. They haven't looked at the New Testament. This was a brilliant class, 35, 40 students." He said, "Show of hands, how many people have ever read the New Testament?" One person raised his hand. But he says, "You know what? In the Old Testament, in your Torah, Rabbi, you also have a lot of contradictions." So I said, "Okay, sure, professor, hit me with one. Tell me what's bothering you about the Torah." So we were discussing in the preceding minutes the contradictions between the second coming and all the Gospels, the way that they report many of the fundamentals, the tenets of the faith. And out of every single thing that he could pick regarding the validity of the Torah and the truth and veracity of the Torah is, "But Rabbi, the Torah records that Abraham, your first patriarch, he had camels. And we know from archaeological evidence that the only camel bones that have been discovered are ones, domesticated camel bones, that existed 500 or so years after the time of Abraham."
I wouldn't really consider that a contradiction. For a contradiction, I'd be looking for something internally inconsistent, such as the reason for the Sabbath commandment, or the reason that Moses was denied entry to the land, or the location of the tent of meeting, or whether God can be worshipped everywhere or only in Jerusalem, or whether you can eat meat in a secular manner, or whether it's the firstborn or the Levites who are consecrated to God, or whether Abraham had two sons, or what the name of Moses' father-in-law was, or whether the revelation occurred at Sinai or Horeb or nowhere at all, and so on and so on. Those seem to me more like what you'd call contradictions. So, I agree, the camel thing is a strange choice. If you were looking for external disconfirmation, I think you'd definitely go with the absence of corroboration for an Exodus event or for the conquest of Canaan. So the camel thing, bad choice on the part of the professor, for sure.
So without even getting into that, I just said, "Professor, I'm hitting you with the basic fundamentals of the Christian faith, and you're hitting me back with camels. The only thing that bothers you, this brilliant professor who parenthetically said to a friend of mine in the same master's program at Johns Hopkins, if he could live his life over again, he'd actually go ahead and be an observant Jew." Those are the words that came out of his mouth. He says, "There's nothing like the Torah."
Sure, whatever. Sounds contrived, but I'll take your word for it.
But the only thing that bothered him is, what are you going to do about camel bones? I can live with camel bones. We have questions that we have to deal with. We have somewhat apparent contradictions, and you know what? We have numerous commentaries, manifold commentaries from medieval classical times that address every one of these contradictions. We have answers.
Well, sure, but there's a difference between addressing and adequately explaining. A pair of glasses addresses the question of why people don't realize Clark Kent is Superman, but it's a pretty crap explanation.
How to understand that the Torah is true? Many different approaches. I recommend very highly Dr. Lawrence Kellerman's Permission to Receive, delineating 4 beautiful approaches.
I hope you'll present at least one.
To how we know that the Torah is actually true, is 100% true and divine in origin. And Aisha Torah's Kiruv primer, The Eye of the Needle, it's discussed as well. I like to just focus on one of the many proofs. One general proof is regarded as the historical proof. And that is that if you look at all the religions of the world, you'll notice that even though there have been approximately 15,000 different religions recorded in the world's history, there's only one religion that makes claim to something called national revelation.
Okay, the unique claim. Go on.
Every other religion, so whether you say it's Jesus, Muhammad, it's one prophet who comes out of the woods after years or some period in solitude, having sequestered himself, comes to the world and proclaims, you know what, I was visited by God, I'm a prophet, and I'm going to start a new religion.
That's not how Christianity goes at all. Were you actually paying attention in that New Testament class at Hopkins, or were you never really there?
And he manages to build up the religion, a whole entourage of people, until it expands over time. Judaism is the only nation that makes claim to what seems to be an unbelievable declaration, and that is national revelation.
Unbelievable? Sure, but I find most religious claims unbelievable, so you'll have to do better than that. It was actually probably pretty believable to pre-scientific people.
We go back over 3,300 years, and we have constantly clung steadfast to the notion that God revealed himself not only to his prophet Moses, not only to the greatest prophet that ever lived, the Moshe Rabbeinu, the leader of the Jewish people, but he revealed himself simultaneously to between 2.5 and 3 million members of the Jewish nation, and they all heard God speak to them as a people, collectively.
Well, you may be very excited about that, but that is still a claim that you need to prove. You say this is a claim that Jews have always made. Prove it.
God manifested, revealed himself in the world, not only to one individual, not to two, not to a small group, to every living member of the Jewish people. And it's been passed on from generation to generation.
Prove it.
Now, can you ever imagine a hoax like that being perpetuated?
Sure I can, but it need not be a deliberate hoax. Could just be mythology creep.
It never has.
Well, I think you need to prove it hasn't.
Because there's no other claim like it. And every religion knows that. Wouldn't it be the most awesome claim to say that instead of God revealed himself to Jesus or to Muhammad, God revealed himself to every single Christian alive at the time?
No, because that's not the Jesus story. I find it humorous that Jewish apologists are so convinced that mass revelation is the best way to start a religion, they are always asking why Christianity and Islam didn't do that. It's like a mom-and-pop bookstore saying, hey, the free coffee they give you when you spend $100 or more is such a great idea, why didn't Amazon.com do that too? That would have been a better way to grow the business. Well, Amazon grew the business okay without the free coffee.
Why can no other religion make claim to such a statement? Because it's ridiculous.
I don't know. Is it more ridiculous than other religious claims? I'd say that God talking to one person or 10 people or 100 people or 1,000 people are all equally ridiculous, but go on.
If it didn't actually happen, for someone to fabricate that and for it to be perpetuated from time immemorial.
You didn't prove to me it was perpetuated from time immemorial. Seems to me it entered the tradition sometime around the Babylonian exile with the composition of Deuteronomy, probably.
It would have to have been true.
Prove it. What's your argument? Why can't someone introduce the idea of mass revelation at a much later date, making it impossible to ever verify? You didn't even bother to make an argument why mass revelation is different than any other miracle, so you're going to be left saying that everything that Jesus and Muhammad and Buddha are said to have done is true because these stories were also passed down through the generations. Do you even realize that?
There's only one religion out of all the 15,000 plus religions in the world that makes such a claim, and you know why? Because it's 100% true.
Prove it. I mean, as far as I know, Maui pulling Hawaii up out of the sea is a unique claim. Does that mean it's 100% true?
Because God revealed himself to every single member of the Jewish people.
Prove it.
Everybody alive at the time experienced the grand revelation at Sinai. Everybody passed it on to his child, to their children, to their children's children. It's been passed on.
Prove it.
from generation to generation, from time immemorial, from 3,300 years ago. And every Jew living today, every observant Jew espouses this 100%.
And every Christian espouses the resurrection. So what?
And it's a major fundamental of their faith. We're the only ones to champion such a claim.
So what?
Who wrote the Torah? For someone to write in numerous places throughout Scriptures that God revealed himself to all the Jewish people.
No, it's not written in numerous places at all. The Exodus from Egypt is written about in numerous places. A mass revelation at Sinai or Horeb is scarcely mentioned outside of Exodus and Deuteronomy. I really urge you and everyone to go check this for yourselves. Throughout most of Tanakh, by far the most notable thing about Sinai is its absence from the narrative.
And for God to actually give us a command that we have to remember it throughout all of our Jewish history. And it's incumbent upon us to give it over to our children and their children's children. That God gave us the Torah that God gave the Torah collectively to all the Jewish people.
Wish you'd cite your sources, but if you are trying to prove the Torah is true, why are you telling me things that it says in the Torah? I don't know if they are true or not yet, so isn't that just a waste of time? If I said I'm going to prove to you the Quran is true by quoting you a verse in the Quran, wouldn't you laugh at me?
Historical approach. Need we say more than that?
Yes, because you didn't say anything at all. You just said that if we have a tradition, it must be true. But any other religion can make the same claim about their tradition. So where does that leave you? Accepting everyone's ridiculous religious traditions?
Sure, there are other approaches focusing on many of the ideas bandied about the Scriptures, how it has to be divine in origin. But just one basic approach, which seems to head the list. We're the only nation in the world. God spoke to us all together.
You haven't proved this. So far you've done exactly nothing. Are you aware of what it is you are trying to do?
And he said, I'm giving you the Torah now. Everything in the Torah that the Torah claims, it's either all happened or it's in the process of happening. When we behaved, we got rewarded. When we misbehaved, we got appropriately punished.
Prove it.
Every contradiction that appears is answered by numerous commentators.
Are we going to discuss any of them?
The veracity of the Torah is unquestionable.
So you claim, but are you going to demonstrate it? I mean, I am sure there are Muslims who will tell me the veracity of the Quran is unquestionable. But I want some evidence, don't you?
The veracity and the perpetuity of the Jewish people is unquestionable. The Torah is 100% true.
You are really letting me down, Rabbi. The title of the video was, How Do We Know the Torah is True? So I was expecting something like an argument or some evidence, but this is just you repeating again and again, the Torah is true, which just makes me sad that you think this is what an argument looks like. Like, a good mind has gone to waste here.
Let's not make that mistake of that brilliant professor who says, you know what, Rabbi, if I could do it all over again, I'd be an observant Jew. Because I know, from reading the Old Testament, the New Testament, I know that the Old Testament is in fact divine in origin. And I know that every word of that Torah is true.
The more you tell me about this professor, the less I believe your story. I am sorry.
If that's a brilliant professor from Johns Hopkins, and we have the merit to be born Jewish, to grow up Jewish, let's take the Torah, the guidebook, to what it means to be Jewish and to live a Jewish life. Let's follow the words of the Torah as best as we can. Let's recognize that every word is true. Every letter is true.
Well, I would have been grateful if you demonstrated that any word is true, let alone every word.
We have an extremely close relationship with the God who gave us the Torah. It's divine in origin. Let's espouse it. Let's learn it. Let's study it. Let's observe its laws as best as we can so that we can maximize our potential and fulfill the mission of the Jewish people by spreading the light onto the nations of the world through that special book, the veracity of that Torah, which remains and forever will remain 100% unquestionable.
All I can say is, what a disappointment. You didn't even do the Kuzari proof right. You just made a whole bunch of claims with no evidence, same as people in every other religion do. That is some bad apologetic.